Our favourite for southerners is trout, but trout are very temperature sensitive. The water must be below 23 degrees. The temperatures above that very much will result in trout deaths. Trout have to have really pristine water. The water quality's got to be really great, but they are wonderful feeders. They feed very, very readily. They'll eat almost anything, and they grow quite rapidly. Another variety of fish is commonly called redfin, or English perch, which is a fish that's been brought here by our friends the Englishmen. And in England it's regarded as a very good sport fish, I believe. In Australia, in most states of Australia, it's regarded as a pest fish and is illegal, but you can keep them in South Australia. I'm not sure what the rules are. And of course then there's the big one in overseas, in America and Europe, is tilapia. Now tilapia is an excellent fish for home aquaculture and for home aquaponics. It's just a wonderful fish for that because it self-breeds very, very well. And in the States they've done quite a lot of selective breeding to come up with really good tank varieties that grow excellently well. They'll eat vegetation, they'll eat pellets, so they're just a wonderful fish for home aquaculture. They are very, very tolerant of poor water quality. You can keep them in very, very high densities, so they're absolutely excellent for home aquaculture and home aquaponics. The only problem is in Australia they are highly illegal in all the eastern states. I think the fine's about $130,000 for possessing a tilapia, dead or alive. So even though they'd be great for our purposes, you simply can't have them. In Western Australia they are legal in certain circumstances. I'm not sure what that is. But tilapia is a good one if you're in anywhere else but in Australia. Look at these strawberries here and here. Look, there's more of them everywhere you look. More strawberries coming up here. Look at that, isn't that beautiful? All grown on fish tree. Wonderful, wonderful strawberries. Oh, look what I found. Oh, how awful. I think I'll have to eat it. Yeah, people often comment that come here to visit our garden, they comment on how green everything is. And it's true. And when we first started growing it, both my wife and I used to comment that the lettuce looked almost as if they were made of plastic. They're so healthy and so strong. Look at that beautiful cos lettuce leaf. You can grow lettuce in one of these systems. It takes 24 days in a little seed pot to raise the lettuce seed from planting it to get it ready to plant out, and putting in this garden bed. 24 days later you've got a mature lettuce. And the reason the plants are so healthy, there's really no mystery to it, is the plants are constantly supplied with water. Every 12 minutes the system goes and the garden bed is completely flooded, and of course they are constantly supplied with beautiful nutrient from the fish. So the plants have always got plenty of nutrient and plenty of water. So why wouldn't they be perfect plants? Let's just take a look down in the gravel grow bed now. This gravel grow bed is just on 3 years old, and you'll see what happens in the gravel grow bed on a 3-year period. You can see there's water in there because this system is in the middle of a cycle, a pump cycle, and you can see what's developed in there. See all that stuff on my fingers? That's actually fish poo. Sounds terrible, but that's what it is. They're the fish solids that have accumulated in the system. It's 3 years old, and you can imagine the wonderful, all the goodies in there that the plants love to eat. Because your aquaponic system works so well, you're going to be able to grow so much stuff in a very small space. And so we've got to make good use of our vertical space as well. And you'll notice here that I've got an overhead wire, and I've got these strings that we tie our tomato bushes up on. We grow climbing beans by choice because we can make good use of vertical space. We've got this device here which is commercially available. It's called a tomato hook. It's just simply a wire device that's got a couple of meters of string, about 5 or 6 meters of string on it. And what we do is we hook that over our wire and we tie the string to our tomato plant or our bean vine, and that way we can get it to grow up and we can make good use of vertical space. The other fascinating thing about aquaponics is that you don't have to rest the garden beds like you do in the normal garden situation. We can just keep growing crops over and over again in the same space because of the wonders of it all. We're delivering nutrient all the time to the garden bed, and we're delivering water to it all the time. Fresh, nutrient-rich water is being delivered over and over again, and we simply find we can just keep growing veggies all the time, all year round. And in fact, I'm amazed at the tomato bushes we can grow. We find they have a life of about 9 to 12 months in the one bush, and we just keep cropping and keep cropping and keep cropping because of this wonder of having nutrient and water delivered to it constantly all the time. This was put in as a seedling about 5 to 6 weeks ago. It's a seedling. Look at the root system. Lovely and clean. Beautiful root system. Now we can plant straight back into that area that's come on in that period of time, and that is as solid as a rock. You know, that's a really solid cabbage. If we were to spray any kind of insecticide on the vegetables, that would kill the fish. So aquaponics by its very nature is organic, and that's a wonderful thing. Particular plants like Asian greens are very susceptible to grubs, so we find we can control that by companion planting with marigolds in amongst it, for example, and also by spraying with a garlic and sea salt mixture. It's sometimes a good idea to add a little bit of household detergent to your mixture, just a couple of drops, because that will help wet the leaves of the plant. You can see here that the mixture doesn't stick to the cabbage leaf too well unless I add a little bit of soap, which will help. Not too much soap because we don't want to disturb the fish, but just enough to make the mixture wet, so we can actually wet the leaves with our sea salt and garlic mixture. Look at this beautiful coriander plant. Isn't that glorious? That was a seedling only 3 weeks ago. Isn't that beautiful? Beautiful onions coming in here. We're trying to see how well onions will grow in these clay pebbles, and I think they're going to grow very well. They were standing up nicely a few days ago before these plants started to take up. In the back here we've got some parsley. We always have to have some parsley. See the parsley bush there? So you need to plant it in a back corner somewhere because it tries to take over after a while. And mint, I'll give you a tip of advice. Don't grow mint in an aquaponics system. It goes berserk. It does. It ends up growing through all the pipes and it just takes over. It becomes a monster plant. We call it mint the monster plant. Look what we found here. Mr. Grub having a lovely feed of my broccoli bush. So we will catch Mr. Grub and we'll drop him down the hole into the fish tank. And Mr. Grub will become dinner for some lucky fish. Now we're going to feed the fish. We've got here a quantity of pellets. These are very good quality pellets. We've chosen these especially because they have no land animal content at all. They only are made from fish meal and soy meal. So they're very good quality pellets. A lot of people are worried about the fish food, what kind of food goes into the fish, because obviously what we put into the fish is what we're going to ultimately eat ourselves. So that's why we don't want to have fish pellets that have any land animal content. We don't want, you know, old dead cows to be used to feed our fish. So we've chosen these pellets very carefully. And there we are, that's what they look like. We're going to feed our sleepy cod right now, and they feed best in the afternoon. As you can see, the sun is going down. So we're going to feed our sleepy cod, and we'll just wake them up with a few handfuls of pellets playing on the thing, and we'll watch to see them come up to get the pellets. The amount of food that you give your fish depends entirely on how much they eat. A common problem in a new aquaponics system is people overfeed their fish. Now if you overfeed the fish, that fish food will lie on the bottom of the tank and it will go rotten and will actually generate much more ammonia than the fish are producing themselves. A lot of people, when they start with their system, they're having a problem balancing the system and getting the ammonia dealt with, and the problem is really because they're overfeeding their fish. So what you do is use a floating fish food. I find is easier. You throw the pellets onto the surface of the water and you watch the fish come up and take it, and they quickly get used to that idea, and you just observe them feeding. When their feeding slows down, then that's enough. Don't give them any more fish food. And if you've made a measure of that amount of food that you've given them, then you know that that's what they should get every day. Whether it's a once a day fish food or twice a day food, then that's what you give them. Another great way to feed your fish is with vegetable matter, and this applies to jade perch, silver perch and tilapia. They love to eat vegetable matter. And here's an example of a lettuce bush that I've grown that's starting to run and go to seed. It's still good for food for us, mind you. You just pluck the leaves off. But if I throw that into my fish tank here of jade perch, 3 days later, this is what I've got. Have a look at that. Just how they've stripped those leaves, absolutely stripped them off. It just gives you an idea as to how much jade perch, silver perch and tilapia love vegetable matter. So that's another great way to get nutrient into your system, by recycling some of your vegetable matter. Any lettuce that you don't eat yourself, the fish will clean up for you and love every minute of it. The fish are the most efficient producer of body weight